everyone. Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, you guys, I'm excited because of my adventures and getting to go out and about and do new things. I met my next guest. Anytime I've talked to her, I could just tell that she is doing the thing with everything she's doing, whether it's the company she's working with, the travel she's doing, the people she's connecting to, and just how, man, I want to say how fast she moves, because I don't even know how she does everything she does. She's managing a million things at the time, all the time, and able to balance all of it. And it's amazing when you get to see the end result of something that someone is doing. And I was just really excited to get to talk to her, because I want to actually get inside her brain to learn how she does all of this stuff. Because as you guys know with Do the Thing, it's not just important to do the thing, but it's important to really tap into who you are and how you can live your life in the way that you want to, and not because someone else says that you should. So I am welcoming Ines to the show. Hey, Ines.
Hi, thanks for the big girl welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here.
Me too.
So, okay, I'd love to start off and just have you share your story.
Which one? So many.
Yeah, we'll kind of go on your Do the Thing story. So just we'll kind of grab whatever feels good to start at from 5 years old or...
Yeah, no, you don't need to go that far back, but I'll go back. I guess I've always been a workaholic, unfortunately, but never to my detriment, I think at least. I've been working since I was very young, probably about 12 or 13 years old before I was technically allowed to. So I just worked off the books. I'm originally from the Northeast, so it's not that hard to find those type of jobs, unfortunately. So I worked all through high school, worked all through college, and then after college, I started working professionally, I guess is how I would call it, because it was a typical 9-to-5, 40-hour-a-week job. I started my world in banking originally. I started there mainly because, again, Northeast, I lived in New Jersey, so I worked in New York City and in New Jersey combo, starting in banking. I went to school for forensic psychology. So my original plan was to become an agent. That was what I really wanted. That was my goal. And then after college, the rules of becoming a specific FBI agent are either get your master's or have a professional career in an institute, like a business institute. So I hate school. So I swore I would never go back to school again. So I decided to go to the banking route. Started working there, and then I met my now ex-husband, and then he kind of just changed my course in life just because he didn't want me doing that. He didn't want me getting shot at, which I understand and respected him enough and liked him enough to say, okay, I'll just continue in banking. So I stayed in banking. We moved out of the Northeast to Chicago. We lived there I was there at least for just over 10 years. And then I fell into venture capital is where I was working. So still banking-ish, but different. We worked for a small family business, and they invested in a lot of companies and or owned a lot of different companies. Most of it was in tech. And then one of it was a products-based business. So that's where I started my world in products, was a long time ago. And then I learned all the ins and outs. I was the right hand to the CEO of that specific product-based company. So I did everything. But my main job was I was her assistant, but then obviously handled everything that she needed. And then I also started doing accounting work with them, just because anytime something was like, hey, we need to reduce fees, we need to fire a person, I'm like, I'll do it. Like, I always had my hand up. I always wanted to learn. I love learning new things. I specifically love working for companies where I can do everything. To me, it's who I am as a person. I want to know all the ins and outs so that I can help the company get better, progress, and just do more. I don't call myself an entrepreneur. I'm probably more of an intrapreneur, just because I will always be someone's right hand, but I'm not going to be the girl that's going to go out and start her own business. I just have no interest in it. But I love helping people with the visions. I want to be able to do whatever I can for them. So I was there, I left Chicago, and then I went back into banking because I moved back to the Northeast for a few years, and then ultimately got tired of the Northeast and came to Texas. And that's where I met Ryan, but didn't work for him right away. I worked for a different company. They were also a startup. They were more e-commerce, though. They didn't have a physical product. It was an e-commerce company. So I started working for them, and I met Ryan because Ryan was friends with the CEO at the time. And so I met him, the podcast. Of course, we met podcasts. So he did a couple podcasts with them. And so I would talk to him. And then one time I went to one of Ryan's events, CapCon specifically, and I think it was in 2017 was when I went. And I saw Ryan. And as soon as Ryan saw me, He warm welcome, remembered my name, and like, you introduced me, my name's Ines. No one remembers my name. It's a different name. It's not a common name, so no one ever remembers it. So the fact that he definitely met me maybe once, maybe twice before, and immediately welcomed me with open arms, like, hey, come on over, introduced me. So we're in the green room too. He introduced me to all the speakers and like, you need to talk to this person. Ryan barely knew me, but he knew how to connect me. And also it was really nice and welcoming. I was like, wow, he's a really nice human. This guy, he's a good dude. So then I stayed for the event and then I left. And then within probably a few months, I decided I didn't want to be at that company anymore. And I was looking for a new role. And my boss at the time knew it was a reciprocal thing. We're going to break up now. So he was at the gym with Ryan or something. Of course, he's at the gym with Ryan. And Ryan asks how I'm doing. He's like, oh, how's Ines doing? And he's like, oh, she's good. She's looking for a new opportunity. And so he's like, wait, what does she do? And then my boss is like, everything. And he's like, well, that's a loose statement. He's like, can I talk to her? And he's just like, yeah. He's like, I'll ask her. She's okay with it. But sure, you can talk to her. And he's like, okay. So then he asked me, of course, I'll talk to Ryan. He's the nicest guy in the world. I don't know anyone nicer than him. Sure, I'll talk to him. So I talked to Ryan in our first interview with basically that. He's like, what do you do? I'm like, Ryan, I do everything. But here's a list of the most basic things I can do, but I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I don't even know what you do. I don't know what capitalism does. I knew nothing about his company at all. But I love helping people and I love making your life easy. That's how I always give it to entrepreneurs. I'm like, I know how to make your life easy if you let me work with you and let me in on everything. But you need to let me in on everything. Otherwise, I have no idea where you need the most help. But I'm very good at working with someone and seeing what they're doing is ridiculous and I can handle it much faster or hire someone to do it and they don't need to worry about that anymore. So he's basically like, you're hired. So for the most part, I mean, I went through the process, interviewed a bunch of times and then ultimately hired me. And now I've been with him for just over 6 years.
Wow.
6 years? 5 years? 6 years? Yeah, I don't know. Long time. It's 6 years. Yeah, I believe it's 6 years of our anniversary. So for him, he always says I'm his right hand, which is probably the easiest way to put it. I work with him in all of his businesses. I do various tasks in all the businesses, but it's more I help him build whatever the next project is. So now we're working on a new project. I'm helping initiate it, create the beginning frame of it, and then ultimately we'll hand it to someone else to run. But being who I am, I love the building part of it because then I know how everything works. And so I'll know if something breaks or there's an issue, I can catch it relatively easy to make sure that we can fix it or address it. Or if just the wrong person's in the role running the company, it's easy for me to step in, take care of whatever's happening at the moment, and then help rehire the new person that can come in and do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing when you get to see you, right? When you see someone I could literally see all the things that you touch, right, with that company and just all the people that are then able to be helped by the stuff that you're doing. The words that you said, which I feel like this is where we have to go for a minute, but you said how to make their life easy. What does that look like for you? First of all, how do you have the confidence to say that? That's so cool. I love that. And then also, how do you actually do it? Do you have a framework that you use or is there something that kind of helps you do it?
It's different with everyone. I look at it more, I know how to fix what's broken. It doesn't matter what's broken. I may not even be an expert at the field, but I can figure out how to get it done. I'm scrappy in the sense that I'll probably Google it and now I'm going to AI it because that just makes life really easy now. But I can see where there's a hole or I can see where there's the issue. So when we talk about a new business or anything, or a new product even, Ryan is a visionary, 100% visionary. He's not a doer. He tells you what he wants. And then I will say to him, here's why we can't do this. Well, I find the issues and things. I guess that's probably what it makes me so good at that is that I can see the problems that are going to come up with whatever we're about to create or produce. And if I don't catch the problem right away, I can catch it while we're going through the system and then I can clean it up and fix it and address it then. So whenever I work with entrepreneurs, like Ryan specifically, I sit with him and just listen to him. We talk about whatever it is that he's working on or even thinking about. I can tell him, here's why this is a good idea. Here's why this is a bad idea. Here's how we can make it work. Or to be like, this is just not something we should do right now. Let's wait 2 years. We're not ready yet as a company. So it's easy for me to see a hole in a product or a problem before anything else.
Where do you think that comes from?
I'm always expecting the worst. That's the only thing. I'm a cynic. I'm a cynic. I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop and something bad to happen. So I'm looking for it before it can happen and truly affect us or affect me even as a person.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, though, because if you were a full cynic, right, then they fall into the problem and they can't bring it back up. So how are you able to just know that you could just fix any problem? How does that come up?
Honestly, I think it's just I'm just always been a confident person, and almost to the point where I think growing up, I grew up with siblings, so I was and I was the last child, so I was mostly ignored, which no big deal. But I also never wanted the spotlight, so it didn't affect me that I was doing that. But I also wasn't seen a lot of times. They weren't paying attention to me. So as I got older, I'm like, how do I make myself seen? And I think that's where I realized I saw so much as had no one paid attention to me. I just saw everything going on all the time. I can figure it out easier than most people because you're talking to, let's say, a person named Jane. I'm just sitting there listening to your conversations. And I think that's why the introvert in me is helpful, because I don't insert myself into a lot of stuff because I'm listening to everything else around me go on. And then I can see all the things happening and being like, oh, that's going to be a problem. Or, oh, here's where I can see that being an issue. So seeing it in that view has helped me see the issues. And because I was never seen, me putting my foot forward at all, I needed to prove myself. So I feel like doing it is also proof of I can do this. And I know I can do this because I know I'm a confident person and I know I have skills. So let me show you I can do this.
Where do you think the confidence comes from?
I honestly don't know. Maybe my father always told me I was amazing growing up. I don't know. I just think that, my father was always very positive with us growing up. He always said, if we got a 98 on a test, he's like, what happened to the other 2 points? And we're just like, well, but it didn't matter. He's like, I know you can do better. But in a loving way. It wasn't like we were never scolded for. He was just like, I know you can do better. Do your absolute best all the time. And so I think maybe that just as a very young kid, because he passed away when I was very young, maybe just as a young child, hearing that all the time, I know you can do better. I have that in me. I can do that. He's right. I can do this. And I've proven myself that I can. And I'll be the first to admit, if I can't do something, I will try, I will fail. And they're like, hey, I can't do this. And here's where I need help. But here's where I think I can hire someone to help because I don't know if you can do it either. I kind of know my weaknesses too, but I always want to try first because more so I love learning and I love knowing how to do everything. And which is funny that I never liked school. It's weird to me that I never liked school because I do love learning. And now I'm, as an adult, an older adult too, I'm constantly looking at classes to take. So it's weird. I'll now complete what reverse. I'm like, I want to take some classes. Now I'm learning a new language. Once I master that, let's say I want to learn another language. Recently, I was like, I want to start sewing. So I'm going to probably start sewing soon just to sew. It's just stuff I just love learning new tips that it just makes me feel good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated with a lot of people call them lateral skills. And as I was exploring lateral skills, I'm calling it life assets now. I have a whole episode on it. And I just love seeing these connection dots between something that happened when you're younger and then these skills that were built either through something you didn't have or something you did, and then how that's translating to now. Because what you're doing now is not, I don't want to say not normal, but it is rare to find someone that could do what you're doing, where you're able to fix any problem and even if you can't figure it out, you're figuring out who can. So you're just able to really tap into all of that. And it sounds like almost too, on top of your dad giving you praise and instilling that confidence in you, which is incredible. But having worked since you were 12 and 13, I'm imagining those stints of different things that you did probably did something there with that belief too.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure. I semi-remember my jobs back then. I just remember always schoolwork. That was my life from as long as I can remember. I was taking buses to work just because it was I worked for a family business and because again, I was getting paid under the table. So I had to get there and it was about a half-hour journey from my house. And I'm doing this at 13 years old. It was weird that I did it too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have that figuring it out muscle landed on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're okay with uncertainty, it sounds like.
Yeah. Which is why I think I like exploring and traveling. You know what I mean? Just because it gets me it's always uncertain wherever you go. And so going to weird places, it's I don't know what's going to happen when I get there, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm never dreading it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a new challenge, which I think I like moving too. I've moved a handful of times. And every time I'm I get so excited by it. So I'm oh my God, there's going to be a new grocery store I could find. There's going to be restaurants. There's always something to explore and find in these little pockets of places that I go to. So I do enjoy that in life.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit about your travel too, just because every time I've seen you, I feel like you've just come from another trip. Do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit more about, that?
So yeah, I do. I try to, at least I hope so. I'm very excited for this year's journey. So this year is going to be a good one. Well, not that they're ever bad, but I do love traveling all over the world. Ideally, I wasn't really able to until after I got divorced because my ex-husband hated it. So I couldn't. So I almost felt restricted. And also once I did get divorced, I'm like, I'm with anyone, they better travel. Non-negotiable. Don't care about anything else. They better travel. So they better have their passport ready. So my current husband, he loves he actually travels for work domestically. So he's always on a plane, but he never complains because I always want to go international. Our rule is together, we have to do at least one international trip every other year. But me personally, I'm going to go internationally every year. Like I'll go with friends, I'll go with someone just because with his work, it's hard because he does travel so much. But I was like, no. And then when the off year for us, we're going to do a lot of domestic travel. So this year is our big international trip. We're going to Antarctica.
Oh my gosh. How cool is that?
I'm so excited for this trip. I'm so excited.
When are you going?
November. So that's when their summer starts, and their summer is not summer, but it's better than right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's so cool. So what brought that on? Was there something that got you excited or?
It came out of literally nowhere. This was the year we're going international. I have a map above my desk, literally above my monitor of the world. And I have pins in everywhere I've been to. And then okay, we were staring at it. And I'm like, where do you want to go? And we just went to Europe for our honeymoon, which was 2 years ago. We went to Spain and Portugal and traveled both countries, all of Portugal and most of Spain, at least, not all of it. But I was like, I don't necessarily want to go back to Europe just because we were just there. Where else can we go? So then we can go to Iceland. We can go. I love Australia. So I was like, can we go back to Australia? He's like, I want to go somewhere you haven't been yet. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm just staring. Then he's looking, he's like, what about Antarctica? Like, he said it. And I'm like, you'll go to Antarctica? And he's like, yeah. And it's because it's very cold. My husband hates the cold.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, all right, well, don't put this in me if you don't want to. And he's like, no, let's do this. So we start researching it. And then we realize you need to book Antarctica way in advance. They're saying a minimum of a year in advance because you have to do it via cruise. There's no hotels there. You can't stay there. So the only way to get there or to visit it is via a cruise. You can fly and land there, but then you're getting on a cruise to then tour it because there's no such thing as a hotel there. So we started researching it. And then I went down that rabbit hole of figuring that out. I have a good friend who is also a travel agent. When I reached out to her, because I was like, I need help with this. This is something that I need an expert because I don't know if I'm the right person to find this. And by coincidence, when I reached out to her, she was at a conference with a lot of other travel agents. And so she met the specialist that does the cruises. He only focuses on Antarctica cruises. She's like, you are so lucky you got me right now because I have the best person to talk to. So she talked to him forever and then came back to me. She's like, all right, here are your options. And she just gave me a couple options. I then dived into all of them to see which one was best fit for us. So I'm a big adventurer. I don't want to just sit on a boat, especially because it's a cruise. I don't want to sit on a boat and have a cocktail. I want to go and I want to hang out with the penguins and ideally see whales and see all the animals that are out there. So when I was looking at it, I was stuck between two different boats. One was pure adventure. It's a smaller ship. And they only max out, I think, at 76 people, guests on board, not including staff. So when I was looking into it at the ports in Antarctica, they max it at 100 people. So I'm like, wait a minute, if I take this smaller boat, I get more opportunity to see more places. Yep, that's what I want. And she's like, but this other one is much nicer and they're free cocktails. I don't care about drink. I don't care about that. I want to be able to I want to not be on the boat as much as possible. I want to go see things. And then she's like, well, do you want a kayak? And I'm like, yes. And so she's like, we need to book that now too then. So we also rented kayaks. So for us, at least, they only allow 10 people to get this. We have our own kayak, so we can take it the whole time we're there. We can just take them and go wherever we want.
That's cool.
I'm like, this is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it's so great because you're just able to just jump in, right? And so that's coming from a lot of years of just you probably doing things and then seeing that you're good. And then it just keeps building the confidence up, which then can compound over time.
Yeah. And I think, not to be mad at my ex-husband, but I'm slightly mad at him in the sense that he held me back with everything that now I'm never going to let that happen. And I'm going to take every possible opportunity I can to do what really makes me happy. And that's where I'm like, this is it. Everyone I told, I'm going to Antarctica, they're like, what? Either I get a reaction of, that's really cool, or why would you go there? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? It's on pretty much everyone's bucket list. You know what I mean? Someone's going to be like, that would be cool to go there. I'm like, and of course it's on my bucket list. It's South Pole. Like, who goes to the South Pole? And I was like, and at this time, I'm healthy physically. I can financially afford it. Why wouldn't I just go instead of waiting for someday? I think everyone's always waiting for someday. But what if someday doesn't happen? Or what if when someday happens, where everything goes, something might, like your health might not be great, or you might not be able to afford it this time. Like, I can easily do it right now. I was like, let's go for it. Because there's a good chance I'll go back if I can. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to every country just once. If I can go if I love it and can go again, I absolutely would. Which is why I want to go back to Australia. I've been there, but I loved it. So I definitely want to go back.
Was there anything that helped you after the divorce to get into this mindset where you're ready to go now? Was there a shift at all?
I think, I didn't know it while I was married that he held me back so much. I didn't consider it. It was a loving relationship. He was very good to me as a human. He was a very nice guy. But once I was going through the emotions and therapy and everything of realizing, wow, he really stopped me from having my life. Mm-hmm. I think it woke me up to be like, you need to have your life. And knowing me before him and even after, no one believes me on how much I was held back with him. They're like, you, the way you are. And I'm like, but I wasn't like that when I was married. I was very almost numb, it felt like. And it could just because I was just dealing with a lot of trauma in general during the time of being married. We married, I was very young. I was 23 years old. Mm-hmm. So, I was very young. My father had passed away. I think I probably never really dealt with that. I had other things in high school and stuff that happened that I never dealt with. So I think meeting my ex, it helped me just not have to worry. I wasn't as worried anymore with life. And then once we were breaking up and everything, I was just like, I don't need to worry. I can enjoy. I don't need to be held back in order to truly enjoy what I really want to do. And just finding out what is it that I want to do. And I think I always got pushed into even jobs. I did things that I thought I was supposed to. Like banking. I'm from the Northeast, so banking's normal. Everyone goes into banking in some bank. So it's like you do what that you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do that. The company I worked for in Chicago, the CEO I worked for, she really helped me see my potential. Work-wise too, because she kept giving me more and more opportunities to do more and more. So I think that's when I also realized, wow, I'm way more capable of doing a lot more than I even thought for myself. And then coming to Austin and working for Ryan, sky's the limit. Honestly, he's just like, he just tells me all the time, stop holding yourself back. Please be you. Be yourself. Even this week, he said it to me. He's like, remember when we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with another partner of ours? He's like, remember how you were? I go, yeah, I was. He's like, you were so confident and you were so you. I want that girl all the time. And I'm like, okay. I almost need the permission sometimes from my boss because I've been yelled at for being too much me. So I've had in every banking job I've had, I'm not allowed to be me at all. Even to the point where I couldn't show my tattoos. None of my bosses knew I had them. You know what I mean? Everything was hidden. I was reserved and brought down. So that's when I left that last banking job in New York that I was like, I will never work for someone like that again. It just was not a good place for me. Instead of pushing me down, it just made me really angry. And I was like, I don't like angry. And I was just like, it's not fun at all. And I just want to be happy and just live my best life. So it's so huge what you're saying. Do you mind giving some advice to people listening that maybe have been told, whether they're in a relationship or they're at a job or they're with friends, that they're too much them, that they're too much for that person or too much for that job or too much for that relationship? How would you help them kind of they very well may be too much for that person, job, relationship. They're just with the wrong person. They're in the wrong place. They're not with someone that can help bring them out. If someone isn't shining all your glories all the time, then you're not in the right position ever, whether it's a relationship with a business or a personal relationship, even friendship. I've broken up with friends that have said, you're too dominant. I do have a friend that tells me this. She's like, you come off dominant. And I'm like, I am dominant. But that's just because I'm confident. I'm not dominant, aggressive. I'm confident. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but then maybe you shouldn't be my friend because I'm not going to stop being who I am or how I am. Because when people say that to me, I can tell, is that a compliment or are they saying something negatively? And when it's a compliment, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. They're like, no, yeah, it looks great on you. And some people are just like, I don't know how to handle it. I'm like, well, that's your problem, not mine. So it's like, that's not me.
Yeah, it just makes me see, because you know who you are so deeply to the core, and you've already lived that life where you weren't able to kind of have the freedom that you wanted, that you are okay telling people what you need and what you want in order to be
You have to be okay with breaking up with relationships that you might think are right or good for you, but probably aren't. Because again, if you're not who you really are, then that's not the right relationship for you. I've had to do that with all of my relationships, whether it's work or personal, except my current stance right now, which is probably why I feel so great in my own skin right now. My husband does anything. He never has said to me, you're too much. He's like, no, I love that about you. And same with Ryan. He's like, I love that about you. You know what I mean? It's like, that's who you are. I need that girl to come out more and not someone who's like timid or shy. And I'm like, well, I'm never timid or shy. I just might have a heavier filter than usually, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like we all have those moments, but when you have someone that's able to support and encourage that, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Well, and when you have people that support and encourage it, you're not afraid to naturally do it. Whereas I have friends that are like, well, I'm just really honest. And I'm like, no, you're just rude. There's a difference with that too. I'm not rude to anyone. And I will never say something that's mean or nasty to anyone. I'm going to be polite because that's what they deserve. They deserve my respect. So, and I want that back. But when people say nasty stuff to me, I'm like, that's not okay. I also won't take it. And I think as a kid too, I mean, when I was a kid, I saw a lot of bullying. I was never bullied, thankfully, but I saw it. And back 30 years ago, when I was 35 years ago, probably even more so, when I was young, that was new to the world. That wasn't common, but I noticed it. And I would always stand up for the person being bullied because I never liked it because I almost like was their voice. So I got in trouble a lot in high school for that because I was someone else's voice. And they're like, you stand up? No, because you're inappropriate. And this kid doesn't deserve what you're doing to them. So I was, and that still goes on in life. When I see an injustice, like that makes me go bonkers. If I see something happening, I immediately will jump in, whether I know them or not, and try to alleviate that person because I can see the person getting beaten down and that they don't know how to stand up for themselves. And I'm like, I will do it for you. I will jump in and help you because I don't want anyone ever feeling that they need to be in that position or treated that way because no one deserves that ever.
Yeah, it's amazing because earlier you're saying the not feeling seen at home, but then you're able to be people's voice outside. Yeah. So it's like you're able to take that into something that is now helping people.
Yeah. And I work in rescue too, dog rescue, because I love dogs and stuff too. So same with that. I will help. If I can help a dog, I will help a dog. And I want to. I always told Ryan, my goal is to be a multi-billionaire so that I can buy a lot of land and save every dog in the world. I want them all on my property. I want hundreds of acres and I want them all so that I know that they're taken care of and that there's nothing happening to these poor animals in the world. Because I was like, there's no one that can fight for them. I want to fight for them because they deserve it because they're beautiful creatures.
Okay, so for the introverts that are listening, let's talk to them.
Believe it or not, I am an actual introvert.
Yeah, and we connect in that way too. So it's like, how in the world, because just so you guys know, Ines is literally the I'm using my arms because I can't even think of the words, but everything in that business where she's around all these people all the time, organizing everything. Some people don't understand there's certain ways that an introvert can process, get energy and all that. I'd love to just have you share a little bit there.
Sure. So it's funny. So we do events. We do big events and small events. I am the person that does all the events as well at the company. And it's funny because when Ryan gives me kudos on stage, I want to hide. It makes me cringe and I literally want to hide all the time. It makes me so uncomfortable. And he loves doing it to me because he knows it makes me so uncomfortable. And that's where my true introvert comes out. I'm like, oh my God, I get it, Ryan. I know you appreciate my hard work. I thank you. Don't tell everyone to tell me. Don't tell everyone here to tell me something. Like he did that to me at one event. He's like, I changed my hair that year or something. And he's like, tell Ines your hair looks fantastic. So everyone came up to me and I was like, I am so mad at you right now. I'll see if you had every single person come up to me. But with smaller, I think it also depends too, like with smaller groups, I'm great. I can talk to anyone. I'm not afraid if it's a limited amount of people, but when it's a large, like don't put me on stage. Like I've always said, do not put me on that stage. I will run or I just talk even faster and no one understands me. And it just is horrible. But yeah, people, like large groups of people, I don't know why, because maybe it is the shy factor of, I don't know if I'm saying makes sense. I don't know if they understand what I'm saying. I'm confident, but I don't know what to tell them or teach them that will make them feel a way. Mm-hmm. Just be yourself. And I'm like, but I don't even know what that is sometimes. Like, what is myself? Like, I don't know. Like when everyone's like, like you started like, tell your story. I'm like, well, which story? My work story or my travel story or I don't know, my love story. I don't know, my animal story. I have a lot of random stories, but I don't think I have a big generic story, I guess. And I'm even trying to meet people. If for example, I go to the gym and I see the same person over and over, it's hard for me to go up to them. I want to, but I'm like, I don't know how to introduce myself to people or even talk to people that I know I probably have stuff in common with and that I would get along with to have a friendship with. It's just hard for me to figure out that muscle. That muscle is very hard for me to use to be more open in meeting new people.
Yeah, I have a hack for that. I don't know if you've tried this before, but I like to go to groups with a structure to it, some kind of structure, because if I know kind of what in the beginning, as you're getting to know people, even a candle making class, because then you're with other people and you have a job to do. That's what I like. I like having a job. And then all of a sudden, then you're not so dependent on the conversation. So then the conversation could come out a little naturally. And then once you get to know people, it's a little bit easier. Anyway, that's just my So give me a job anytime I go to another event. Just give me a job to do.
I would even be scared to go to an event. You know what I mean? Even events scare me. And it's funny, like I know how to do an event. I know how to do the event, but I don't know how to be a participant. I went to one last year with Ryan, and I went with him though. So it was like I had my little buddy with me. So it was easy to go. And I just sat there, took my notes, and then we ran away. So it was great because I had him the whole time. But even me going to an event, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And even I'm a big yoga person. I used to do yoga retreats. I haven't done them in a while just because I've been too scared to. And scared's the wrong word, but it's like intimidating to go on your own to these type of things. I used to go with a good friend of mine who lived in New Jersey with me. So it was easy because I had a friend with me. And when I'm with someone, I can talk to people. I feel like that almost gives me a weird bodyguard or something. I don't even know. I feel more comfortable with someone else. And I think too, then I'm not the center of attention. They can be. And I can just sit back and listen and then interject when I think it's appropriate.
Yeah. You have an incredible do the thing story from the time that you were a kid to the being seen. That really connects with me because that's kind of my story, is the not feeling seen, right? And then now being the voice for others. And actually that's still streaming through your life, and then being able to figure everything out and literally whatever it is, you're able to do it, whether it's traveling, whether it's work and all of that. So yeah, it's incredible to see the through line of everything that you are doing. I wanted to ask, so for the entrepreneurs that are listening, or maybe people that, what did you call it? I love that name. I never heard of it. Entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur or they're the people that maybe didn't know that's what they want to do, is be an entrepreneur. There was a part that you mentioned earlier. Do you have any tips for doing what you do for someone else to do that? Is there anything that could make their life easier in terms of the day-to-day workload?
So I can give you multiple answers on that, because I think it would help the entrepreneur to have someone like me. And then as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of times they don't realize that's what they are. And they just like to do a lot of work and like to stay busy and like to learn for the most part. They don't realize that, oh, I can really help a business. I think a lot of people get just boggled down in the day-to-day basic stuff. I can't do basics. That to me is boring, very boring. I need other projects, which is why I love working with Ryan too, because he's always ready to open up another company or do something different, add on to what we're doing and stuff. So I love that about him. Most people might think that's a lot, but I'm like, no, bring it on. I'm better busy than I am not busy. If I have 5 things to do, I'm like, I'll just not do them. When I have 50, everything is done in like very time, because I'm just like, oh, I feel great. I'm energized when I have more work going on.
Yeah.
So
you're caught up by the momentum. Yeah. It's like caught you.
Yeah. And it just feels great. I love just looking at the clock and I'm like, oh, shoot, it's already dinner time. Okay. I guess I'm done today kind of thing. So I love that. That's whereas if I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's not even lunchtime yet. I'm like, shoot, and what am I going to do now? I mean, I have those 5 things I should do. I should do them. I don't want to do them. That sounds boring. Okay. Then it's what I got to do when that's done. And so it's like my brain doesn't work well when I'm not busy. I work very well. But so let me back up. I do believe entrepreneurs don't necessarily know it until they know it. So I think a lot of them are just like to work hard. And a lot of them, I started as an executive assistant. And most of them, in my opinion, start that way. Someone's assistant, an assistant of some sort, because they're still trying to figure out, where do I belong? I did the EA work because I didn't have a skill, because I was right out of college. And I'm like, what do? I don't know what to do. I don't know anything. My bigger dream was to be an agent. So I'm only doing this for now. This is a short-term thing. My real goal is to fight crime. So I just did it. And then the more I did it, I'm like, well, I can do more. It kind of made me realize how much more I can handle. So then I just kept taking on more and more. And then once I worked for the company in Chicago, it really opened me up, because I always kept asking for more of different things. So I started there as an executive assistant as well, but to higher level people. But then I also became an office manager. We bought a building. So then I had to create an entire office for the whole office. And then I started doing bookkeeping, and then I started doing higher level accounting. And then I started doing paralegal work. I've touched almost every field there is. I've done finance. You know what I mean? So it's weird that I was able to open up my experiences because people trusted me, because I worked my butt off. And so that's where, if people love working, that's the path they should take. But then they also need to find an entrepreneur or someone to work for that's going to allow them to really open up and do all the things. And I say entrepreneur because that's who you find it in. You find it in someone who is so hungry and has such an amazing vision that they're going to give more people opportunities because they see it in them as well, just differently. It's just because plenty of times I've been asked, why don't you join your business? I'm like, because I don't want to. I don't want the responsibility. I also don't have the vision. I can't come to anyone and say, here's the bigger thing. Here's all the things I want to do. I'm like, nope. If you tell me what yours is, I can absolutely figure it all out, though. So as an entrepreneur, I think they do need someone like me, but they need to be scrappy. They need to no was not an option kind of thing. They need to really want to be involved in building, but you also have to treat them like they are your right hand, not just an EA checking your email or your calendar.
Right.
That's what's going to bring them down. They're not going to, they need more. Yes. Can they handle that? Absolutely. But that doesn't jazz me up when I'm doing stuff like that. It actually it brings me down when I have to do that, which is why I don't love doing it. So I keep trying to convince Ryan to hire a PA just so I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. It deflates me and it makes me feel less than in a sense. So I need the bigger projects, the bigger things. And I was like, I can handle them. He's like, you are. And he's like, okay. So I think we're finally coming to an agreement where.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that because then you'll be able to do more, right? And which will then get more. Yeah. And then, so how do you manage all the projects? Do you have a system that you're using to be able to keep track of everything? So I can't even imagine how you're doing it.
It's wild that I don't. It depends what it is, I guess, because we use softwares for my tasks and stuff. But that's all the reoccurring stuff. A lot of my stuff isn't necessarily reoccurring, especially when we're building a new product or company. It's all different. So we're doing a new thing now where we're in the process of creating a second fund. So we already had one fund. So I'm like, okay, I can recreate what I did for the first one, which I did, but then I top rated it. I am so organized, I'm unorganized. And it makes no sense. People are like, what's up? I'm like, I use notes, I use G Sheets, I use Monday board. I have so many different places for different things. It just depends what you're asking me to do. I have SOPs. That is the one thing I will say. SOPs I live off of because I truly do believe if something were to happen to me or anyone, you got to know what I do because I'm the only one at our company that does what I do. There are some things that I work on that people can absolutely take away from me, but there's some things they have no clue how to even log into systems to do it. So there's SOPs on it. They're there in case I get hit by a city bus. And that's one thing I recommend any person working in general. You got to have those. As much as they're boring and whatever, those are necessary. And just for your own edifice, so you're not constantly looking back like, how did I do this again? What did I have to do to get here, to get to this place? Because there's so many things that are intertwined in systems that I need to look back. I still look back at my SOPs to make sure that I'm like, wait, and it's a faster route to get to the end result too. So
have you found an easier way to do it with AI now where like you could take a video and do something and it transcribes?
Believe it or not, I'm still a little green on the EI bit. It took me a minute for people to be like, you need to start using it. You need to ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, I'll start doing it. So now I'm slightly obsessed with ChatGPT. I don't even Google. I just use that, even though Google is a leader of the chat of that. So I'm like, oh, I guess Google can help, but I'm starting to, but not yet. So I'm sure by next year, I'll be very AI friendly, but even like crypto scares me. I keep telling I need to deep dive into crypto and figure it out because I don't know it. And it just is weird. I understand it. I know what crypto is. I don't have a wallet. I don't even when NFTs started coming out, we have an NFT mastermind, as you know. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Shoot, I got to figure this out now. And so I've been like slowly working on it because it just hurts my brain to figure out the fake. Because to me, it's like weirdly fake. And I'm like, I can't work with fake. I need tangible. I need money in my hand or to know I own stock. And NFT is weird to me. It's just a picture. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, Ines, this was so much fun getting to talk to you. I just know it's going to help a lot of people in terms of just hearing about your story and your confidence and how you ask for what you want and then also know what you want, know who you are, and all the things that you're doing. I'd love to hear if you have one piece of advice for people on doing the thing.
Sure. My biggest piece of advice I tell anyone is try everything. Do not stop yourself because you don't know if you're going to like it or even be good at it. And you could be really good at it. For example, I'm not a sports person. I love working out. I love the gym in general. I love it. So people think I'm athletic. I'm like, I'm not athletic at all. And then one time I was traveling somewhere and I was like, I want to try surfing. And I'm great at surfing. Didn't know it, but I'm great at it. And I'm like, this is amazing. And it's so much fun. It's the only sport I can do, which is weird.
Surfing's so hard.
But it's the only sport that I can get up on the board. And I'm just like, this is wild. And I had no idea. And I'm like, so I always say to everyone, just try it. You try it twice. Don't even try it once, whatever it is, whether it's work, whether it's fun, anything, try it twice. And then if you still don't like it, then don't do it. But You're not going to know until you really kind of put yourself out there and really see what it is that you're going to enjoy. And you might be awful at it, but still love it. So then you still do it anyway.
Please share where people can follow along with you or see what you're up to.
I don't really post a lot. I post travel stuff on my Instagram, really. So just add INESMANZ. But I'm light on because I'm just quietly living my life.
Well, now you got to share something about Antarctica.
I know. I'll definitely be posting
a penguin or something.
You'll definitely get a penguin. I'm hoping to get a whale. Like someone's joking, what if you're in the kayak and the whale flips you over? I'm like, how awesome is that story? I was like, I would tell everyone that a whale flipped me over. I was like, that would be amazing. Oh, that'd be so cool. And I was like, and if I die because of a whale, I'm good with that. That is so okay with me.
Oh my God. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you. This is awesome. It's so much fun.
And for you guys, do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. And hey guys, have you checked out my Facebook group yet? It's dothethingcommunity.com. And I just started a new one at dothethingcollaboration.com.